In today's edition of NHL Trade Talk, we're talking about the Boston Bruins, the Ottawa Senators, the New York Islanders, and the Pittsburgh Penguins. We've got all the latest rumors coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. Alright, so as we mentioned, we've got all the latest NHL trade rumors, and we're talking mainly about four teams today: the Bruins, the Senators, the Penguins, and the Islanders. So it's been speculated that the Boston Bruins might be interested in obtaining a forward to boost their depth for their playoff run. Apparently the forward they may be interested in is Edmonton Oilers forward Patrick Maroon. Now, Maroon has been speculated to be on the move for a while, and the Bruins and Oilers have been having a lot of scouts show up at each other's games. They're watching each other quite closely. Although, I mean, they do have a game coming up here as well, so they could be scouting for other purposes, but it's been speculated that they are scouting each other as they might be having trade discussions. So, Boston Bruins sports writer Joe Haggerty has speculated as well that he thinks Maroon might be a player of interest to the Bruins. So I think he would fit well personally with how the Bruins play. I mean, really ever since they traded away Milan Lucic, they haven't had a player quite of that magnitude. I know he's not quite the same as Lucic, but he's a big guy. He plays physical, goes to the net and goes to the dirty areas, and he may complement their top 6 or top 9 forwards quite nicely and provide that extra grit for the playoffs for the Boston Bruins. Now, I know the Bruins aren't going to want to tinker too much with their lineup. They've been doing phenomenal lately, so they're not going to want to probably move anything off their roster, and they're probably not going to want to move any prospects that are like the younger players, I should say, that are currently on the roster. Obviously, like a McAvoy or Carlo or any of those guys, they're, I would think, to be untouchables, but they would more likely, if this deal is going to work for Boston, I would think it would have to be a prospect that's not yet in the NHL or a draft pick or something that's not on their active roster. I think they'd look to add to make that happen. And you know, obviously they've been playing so well. I'm sure they're not going to want to tinker too much with that roster right now. Now, another team that's looking to maybe make a move is the New York Islanders. Obviously, as we know, they can score in bunches, but they also give up way too many goals as well. And I know we've talked about it on here before, mainly that a lot of their issue is goaltending, but it's also defense as well. I know I've got to see some more Islanders games lately, and I've had some Islanders fans point out to me that, you know what, maybe you're being a little too harsh on their goalies. Their defense has been atrocious this year. They've had some key injuries back there as well. We've had DeHaan and Boychuk, to name a couple, been out long term. And the defense has been bad enough that oftentimes the goalies are hung out to dry and they're facing way too many shots. So you can't blame all on the goaltenders. And after seeing some games recently, I must say I probably agree with that analysis. So it's been speculated that the one guy who might be able to fetch them another defenseman would be forward Brock Nelson. If you look at their forward group and what they have in place, he might be the key piece that's not really part of the core that they might be able to move out in order to get maybe a decent second pairing defenseman, or maybe even better if they package a prospect or a pick or something along with that. So the Islanders, you know, maybe Nelson might be on the move. So if you're an Islanders fan, would you be okay with moving Brock Nelson if it brought you in a top forward defenseman, and or if you had to move a prospect or a pick along with Nelson to accomplish that? Because I think that might be necessary depending on who the defenseman is. Now, there is lots of defensemen that's been speculated to be on the trade market, so we'll see if any of those names end up surfacing in Islanders rumors. Right now, I don't have any names per se that they're specifically looking at, but that they'd like to upgrade their defense. They desperately need to, and then Nelson might be the guy to be the trade chip to fetch that for them. Now, obviously, another team that's looking to add some depth here for the playoffs is the Penguins. We've talked about the Penguins at great length here in the past. I still think it's quite possible they're going to take a run at Evander Kane in Buffalo to boost their scoring, but the team has been playing a lot better lately as opposed to weeks back when that rumor first surfaced. I still wouldn't rule it out, but I think it's a little bit not as needed as much as it was a while back. But they're definitely, I think, would want to add, at the very least, a depth center iceman. You can never have too much depth at center. And even though Riley Shannon's played okay, I think they would prefer him to have some insulation there just in case things don't go well with him. So they're certainly looking at some other guys. We talked about maybe bringing back Matt Cullen in Minnesota, but obviously that's going to depend on what goes on with the Wild. The Wild are certainly not completely out of the playoff run here yet. So depending on what goes on with them, that may or may not become less likely. I know I've heard Mark Letestu at Edmonton, Derek Ryan into Carolina. There's certainly some other guys as well. I know I've heard that they're interested in a few guys with the Senators, who we're going to talk about here in a moment. I just don't see, I think the price tag would be too high. I've heard Derek Brassard, I've heard J.G. Pageau. I think the price tag would be too high for what they want to give up right now for this playoff run. And, you know, really they have Crosby, Malkin up front. Obviously, nobody's going to be higher than a third-line center. And, you know, I just don't think those would be the right guys. I mean, Pageau maybe, but I know I've heard out of Ottawa, which we'll get into in a second here, that the price tag is just going to be too high. So speaking of the Senators, let's dive into that. Obviously, they've had been, you know, a very unexpected season here, to say the least. Things have gone downhill, and there are bound to be some moves. So there's obviously lots of speculation. The main players that we're being told other teams are calling on, doesn't mean it's going to happen. But one of the big names that a lot of other teams have interest in is Mike Hoffman. We've also heard a lot of rumors about Zack Smith being creating some interest, as well as Pageau. Although the price tag, I've been told, for Pageau is quite high and is very unlikely to move. Duchesne or Pageau, they wouldn't completely rule out not moving them, and it's going to take a deal to knock their socks off to make that happen. And it's very unlikely this time of year around the deadline. A lot of teams are looking for small upgrades or rentals or whatnot, or if they do have term, you know, they're going to pay through the nose for it. So, you know, I just don't see that going down. As far as Zack Smith goes, there's been a few teams, one of them being the Calgary Flames, that apparently are quite interested in Smith. If you're looking for, you know, a third-line guy, really is what Smith is. He can play center, but he's really had more success the last couple of years at left wing. But he's great on faceoffs, plays very physical. You know, he can add a lot of grit, and he's shown in the past that if you need him to move up and play that second-line role, he can score as well. You know, he's not a terribly gifted goal scorer, but he has scored 25 before in a year, and it depends on who he's playing with, I guess. But he can certainly move up and play that role if need be, so he's a little bit versatile. So he might be good help for a team like the Flames, who are kind of still a little bit of a bubble team as of right now. So as far as Ottawa goes, I do see some moves happening. Not sure exactly what's going to go down. I think, personally, I'm not sure there's a lot to the Hoffman rumors. I think the Senators have no choice but to listen, but I think they should tread carefully, as Hoffman's really their only forward that's really a pure sniper. It might be something they want to hang on to. They do have some other guys that would be probably better to move, but I know you can't always. It depends on what's going to bring you back some value. Obviously, they're speculating trying to unload Johnny Oduya. He's an expiring contract anyway. If a team wanted to pick him up for a playoff run. Also, I know that after what happened, and even before it would have been speculated, but I think they'd be more than happy to unload Alex Burrows for the final year of his deal, but I think that'll be very difficult. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of interest there. And apparently been speculated as well that the LA Kings have been circling back and forth on Dion Phaneuf. I know as much as they really don't like Dion's contract. I mean, if he was getting paid a different amount and he could be used second and third pairing defenseman, it wouldn't be so bad, but at $7 million, he's just not worth that amount anymore. And really the only problem is that to move him, you may have to take back another bad contract or retain salary, which seems to be out of Ottawa's character completely. So I'm not sure I see anything like that going down, but it's been speculated that the Kings have circled back 2 or 3 times on Dion Phaneuf and are trying to figure out if they can make a deal work there for sure. So we'll see what goes down. I do think there will be a few moves out of Ottawa. I'm not sure there's going to be too much of a big name splash, but I guess time will tell. They do need to do something as they prepare to get better for next season and beyond. Don't forget as well to follow us on Twitter. You're going to see our Twitter handle on our screen right here. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. All those links are down in the description down below. Don't forget as well to leave lots of comments. Let me know, what do you think of these rumors? Do you see any of these deals going down? Do they make any sense to you? Let me know your thoughts. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. We'll catch you next time.